Okay, so we're looking at the general journal that we were looking at today and putting it to our ledger. So we have the ledger here in the correct order that we want to do the posting. They start with our revenues, our expenses, followed by our assets, then our liabilities, and then our owner's equity. So let's go ahead and start with sales. So to do that, we go back to the general journal and we start looking from the top to the bottom, looking for the word sales. And we can see our very first one here was on January 11, $500 credit. So knowing that it's January 11, we go down here and we type January 11. Going back, we can see that January 11 was $500 credit. So let's go ahead and put that $500 immediately into the credit column. Its balance also stays as 500 CR. But what do we write in the particulars? Let's go back up and have a look at that January 11. We can see that that $500 related to this accounts receivable G Ross. So let's go ahead and pop that in the particulars. Because I've ticked that, or I've posted that, I can put in a tick or some mark to indicate that I've posted it. And I'll put it up here as well. So I posted that sales. Let's look through to see if there are any more sales. We've got another one here on the 16th for $1,000. So we can type in the 16. It was for $1,000 credit again. Our balance now has gone up because 2 credits will increase. So 1,500 remains credit. Again, what do I put in the particulars? So going back to January 16, seeing that $1,000, we can see that it relates to accounts receivable A. Thompson. So let's go down and put accounts receivable A. Thompson. We've now posted that, so we can give it a little tick there, and we can put a reference point there. Scrolling through, because in date order, we're looking for any more sales. We've got no more, so we're fine. We now move on to our new account called Sales Returns. Starting from the top again, scrolling through, as I suggest in class, put your index finger in the particulars and roll your finger down until you get to Sales Returns. And there we go. We can see it on January 12, and it was for $500 debit. So January 12, 500 debit. So January 12, and it was 500 debit. So we put it into the balance column as 500 DR. What do we write in the particulars? So we go back to that sales returns. And there we go, on January 12. And it related to accounts receivable G Ross. So I put G Ross, accounts receivable G Ross in there. I now post that. Scrolling back up to that accounts receivable with G Ross of the sales returns, put a tick there. Let's look through. Are there any more sales returns? No. So we now move on to our new account called Cost of Goods Sold. Again, always return to the start of your general journal and scrolling down or moving your finger down, looking for the word cost of goods sold. And the first time that we see it is on January 11 for 240 debit. January 11, 240 debit. January 11, 240 debit. We can put straight over into the balance column 240 DR. But what do we write in the particulars again? Well, we have to go back to that cost of goods sold, and we see this one that we were looking at. This was our first one. It affected this account called inventories. So we write down here inventories. We've posted that one now, put our reference check in there, and go up here to our cost of goods sold that we just posted. When we run our finger down again, we see another cost of goods sold, this time on the 12th, but this time it's 240 credit. So we come down here, so January 12 so the process is putting in the 240 credit. Now, what becomes of our balance? Well, if I had a debit on this side and I've got a credit on here, it cancels it out, so it becomes a zero balance. But again, what do I write in the particulars? So let's go back to that January 12, and we can see the cost of goods sold. The other account that it affected was inventories. So I grab that and post that in here, put my reference check in, making sure, which it tells me that I've actually posted that figure. Scrolling down, I'm looking for cost of goods sold again, and I see it again on the 16th, and it's $450 debit. So on January 16, it's $450 debit. So because I had a zero balance before, well, my running balance now is 450 DR. What do I write in the particulars? Going back to that one on the 16th, and I see the other account being affected was inventories. And I just write that in there. Because I've posted it, I put my reference check in, and then I come up here and I put my reference check there. Scrolling through to see if I've got any more cost of goods sold. It doesn't look like there is any, so I now move on to my new account called Cash at Bank. This is going to be quite a large one, so let's go through with this. Cash at Bank appears on the first day, January 1, for $40,000 debit. So on January 1, $40,000 debit. What do I write in the particulars? So there was some confusion today when we were looking at this. So when we're looking at what is the opposite account, so that $40,000 doesn't have an equal 40,000 over here in the credit, but it's made up of this 65,000, which is capital. So that's what we write in our particulars here. We've posted that amount for Cash at Bank. So let's put our reference check in. Scroll through, we look to see our next one, which was on January 3, $100,000 debit. So January 3, and our running balance becomes 140, 123, DR. What do we write in the particulars? As I've been saying, we go back to the transaction. Let's have a look, and we can see the other account being affected is loan from bank. So let's copy that and bring that down and post that here. Because I posted that now, I put my reference check in and I come back up to this cash at bank here on the 3rd and I put a reference check there. Scrolling through, I see my third entry now for $10,000 and it's credit. So just let's look at that, $10,000 credit on January 7. So down here, we write January 7, 10,000 credit. Now, because that was credit and our balance was debit of 140,000, I have to subtract the 10,000 away from the 140, and that will give me $130,000 debit, because debit is still the larger side. What do I write in the particulars? Let's go back to January 7. We can see the other account that it affected, because that was credit, must be part of this figure, which is premises. So we come down here and we'll type in premises. We've posted that. Our reference check goes in. We find that transaction we just posted. And now we start looking for another cash at bank. Scrolling through, we can see the next one on the 15th, and it's 2,000 credit. 2,000 credit on the 15th. Jan 15, we said it was $2,000 credit. So again, it has to decrease the balance of debit, because a credit will reduce the debit, and that becomes $128,000, and it still is a DR. What do we write in the particulars? We go back to the 15th, and we can see the other account it affected was drawings. Let's post that in, and we post that in there. We've posted it, so let's put our reference check in, go back to that one on the 15th, and that's what we posted. The next one was on the 15th as well. So for $40,000 debit. So same date, we don't have to change. It was for $40,000 debit. Now, because that's debit, it would increase that debit figure and make that 168,000 debit. But because these entries occurred on the same day, that means I don't need that entry, because our balance is really the balance at the end of the day. So we can take that out. And that's the process of doing that. Do your running balance, and then if you find that you don't need that one because you've got two entries, delete that one above it. What do I write in the particulars now? So let's go back to that 15th. And I can see that $40,000 came in from capital. So I copy that and I paste that in. I posted that, I put a cross there, and then coming in here, that was my cash at bank. Scrolling through, looking for some more cash at banks. I have another one on the 24th, and that was credit $1,000. So on the 24th, it was credit. So January 24 credit. Now I've just forgotten what that figure was again on the 24th. Right, it was $1,000. The date we're doing? Yep, 24th. So on the 24th, it was $1,000 credit. So let's pop that in to a credit. Now this will decrease this. So this should be $167,000 debit. What do we write in the particulars? Going back to January 24, there's our cash at bank. Okay, so we've got to write in furniture. So let's grab that, paste that in. We've posted that, give it a tick or a cross. There it is, cash at bank, there we go. One more or two more to do. So on the 25th, 15,000. On the 25th, 15,000. So January 25, 15,000 credit. So this is going to decrease our figure again. So looking at that, 167,000, take away 15,000 will give you 152,000. DR, double checking my maths on that one. 7, 6, yes. What do we write in the particulars? Let's go back to January 25. We can see there's our cash at bank. The other account being affected is shop fittings. So let's have a look at that and pasting that in. We've now posted it. Give it a tick. There's our cash at bank. Give that a tick there. Our last one was on January 27 for 2,000 credit. January 27, and that was for $2,000 credit. And that will decrease that down. That should bring us to a 150,000 debit balance. And then what do we write in the particulars? We go back to that and we can see it's accounts payable Dara Ford. So let's grab that and post that in here. So that brings us up to the cash at bank. We now have our accounts receivable. I'll just do this one here and see how you can go about finishing off the rest of the question. So, because we're doing accounts receivable G Ross, let's look for accounts receivable G Ross. And there's our first one on January 11, $500 debit. On January 11. January 11, $500 debit. What do we write in the particulars? So we go back to January 11. We see the other account being affected was sales. And we paste that in there. Because I've posted it, I can give that a tick or a cross. And January 11, G Ross, there it is. One more looking through, we can see on the 12th, G Ross was credit $500. So on the 12th, scrolling down here, so January 12, 500 credit. Just double check that figure. I may have forgotten. So G Ross, there we go, 500 credit. I was correct there. So always double check your figure. If you're ever in doubt, always go back. So I had a 500 debit and a 500 credit. So that must mean it's 0. What do I write in the particulars? Go back to the 12th and I'll see it's sales returns. I'll grab that and I'll paste that in here. And I've actually posted that now and I can check that off when I find it. There we go. So that's the process of posting to the ledger for the first number of accounts. To finish off, you should be aiming to doing the accounts receivable, inventories, furniture, motor vehicle, premises, shop fittings, and the rest through there. It's the same process repeated multiple times over. If you have any problems or any questions, put your hand up and I will come around and help you.